All right, Mrs. Haley's going to read to you today. It's called The Great Gracie Chase, Stop That Dog by Cynthia Rillant, and the illustrations are by Mark Teague. And we're going to talk about plot after the story's over. But I'm just going to have you enjoy the story right now because here is Gracie. And Gracie lives with some other creatures in her house. We've got another dog, we've got a cat, we've got a goldfish, and then there's Gracie. All right, are you ready? Once there was a little round dog named Gracie Rose. She was a very good dog. She helped the bigger dog watch the house. She kept the kitty company, and she even sang to the fish when it was lonely. There's the picture. See them? You see, Gracie loved a quiet house. She loved the kitty sleeping on the windowsill, the big dog sleeping on the couch, the quiet fish going ploop, ploop. For Gracie, a quiet home was the best home. Gracie Rose was good every single day of her life, except for one, the day the painters came. Here they are sleeping. She's kind of like the watchdog. She's making sure everything's okay in the house, isn't she? Making sure that the cat's good, making sure that the fish is good, and making sure that the other dog is sleeping. Now Gracie, here's her house. She did not like painters, but she didn't know this until the day they came to her house. So when they arrived one day to paint Gracie's kitchen, she did not like it. Here they came in this big, noisy truck. And you know how she likes quiet. So a big, noisy truck would not be something she would enjoy. Here they go. They're going into the house. There they were at the door with their clangy ladders and their big person voices. There they were dragging chairs across Gracie's quiet kitchen floor. And Gracie Rose watched them with her ears straight up in the air. And she was not happy. Oh, she barked and she barked and she told them to go outside. But do you know what? Look at them bringing all that stuff in there. It's interrupting her quiet house. Here's what happened to her. Guess what they're doing? Gracie was put outside. Look what they're doing to her. Because she's unhappy with them, they're putting her outside. And she did not like it one bit. So Gracie, that silly little dog who loved a quiet house, decided to do something naughty. Gracie decided to take a walk all by herself. Someone had left the gate open, probably a busy painter. Gracie was supposed to be a good dog and never go through the gate by herself, but she did. And when she was halfway down the street, she heard someone say loudly, "Where's Gracie?" And that began the Great Gracie Chase. There she is, going out of the gate by herself, and she's not supposed to. Because when people in the house came outside to find her, and the painters came outside, and the neighbors came outside, and the garbage man stepped out of his truck, and the paper boy stopped his bike, and the delivery woman pulled over, and everyone said, "There's Gracie." You know what Gracie did? Gracie started to run. Because everybody was yelling at her. And what does she like? She likes quiet. Now, Gracie did not know why she was running, except that suddenly everybody in the world was trying to catch her, and she did not want to be caught. So Gracie ran down the street, and everybody else ran down the street too. There they are running after her. And Gracie ran up the hill, and everybody else ran up the hill too. Gracie ran across the schoolyard, and everybody else, guess what they did? They ran across the schoolyard too. Now, Gracie ran through the water fountain, and everybody else ran through the water fountain except for one of these characters. It was the cat. And the cat did not like water fountains, so he did not run through the water fountain. The chase got bigger. "Stop that dog!" everybody cried, which only made Gracie run faster. And soon the whole town was watching or running in the Great Gracie Chase. Poor little Gracie. She did not like this walk one bit. And it was too quick and too noisy, and all she wanted to do was to be beside her fish again. But she couldn't stop running now. Everybody wanted to catch her. So she ran. And she ran and she ran until pretty soon the painters had to stop because they couldn't catch their breath. And the delivery woman had to stop because her feet hurt. And the paper boy had to stop because his bike broke. And someone else had to stop because she tripped and fell. And one by one, all the people had to stop because they could not keep up with Gracie. And then suddenly, Gracie realized something. She realized how quiet everything was again. So she looked behind her, and guess what? The whole world was quiet. People were resting. How nice, Gracie thought. Because that's what she wanted in the first place. Quiet. So that silly little dog turned around and she walked back home all by herself. The painters did not return to Gracie's house that day. You know what they had to do? They had to go home and take naps. They were so tired from chasing Gracie. And there she is. And look, everybody's taking a nap. And once again, Gracie had a quiet home. She was happy. That silly little dog. Wasn't that a fun story? We're going to talk about the plot and some of the character attributes and qualities. So meet me back here in just a few seconds.
Here we are with a plot diagram that's going to help us to look at the story and see the elements that happened in the Great Gracie Chase. I like this map because it kind of tells you exactly what a story does. We start with an introduction. That's maybe when they introduce the characters. And then they go with some type of problem. The rising action is all the events that happen from the time the problem is introduced in the story until the very part of the story where you have no idea what's going to happen. We call that the climax. And that's where we're thinking, okay, here's the problem. It's an absolute max, and what is going to happen next? It's kind of that part where you're in the book and you're like, oh, are they going to solve the problem? Are they not going to solve the problem? That's what the climax is. And then when that climax happens, you have the falling actions, the events that go until you resolve the problem. And so that's what we're going to talk about today with the Great Gracie Chase. I'm not going to do a lot of events on here. We're just going to pick the main ones because that's going to help us to understand the story. So the introduction is the part where they introduce the character. The character is Gracie. So Gracie, tell me a little bit about Gracie. Gracie likes a nice, quiet house. She lives, let me go back here. She lives with a fish, a cat, and another dog, right? That's how they introduced her. She likes a nice, quiet house. She likes things to be in order. She likes to make sure everybody's okay. Gracie is just a very, very mellow, let's call it that, dog. All right. So here's where the problem happens. What happens that makes Gracie not so nice? The painters come. And why was that such a problem for Gracie? Well, because they're noisy. She doesn't like that. So we're going to put the painters come to the house. And the problem with them is they are noisy. And Gracie does not like that. So there's your problem of the story. All right, so then what happens? The painters, she's all anxious. She's barking at them. She's telling them she doesn't want them there. And then what happens? They put her out of the house. Now that's where the problem begins. Because she's making too much noise. All right, so what would you say the problem is? The problem is twofold, I think. The painters come to the house, they're noisy, so Gracie gets upset and the painters take her outside. Here's where the rising action begins. What happens when they take Gracie outside? She runs away. All right, then what happens? Everybody in the neighborhood starts to chase her. Now, does Gracie like that kind of thing? No. She's a nice, quiet dog. She doesn't want people chasing her, yelling at her, trying to get her to come back. So that bothers her. So far, let's look at what our story says. Gracie, she likes a nice, quiet house. She lives with a fish, a cat, and a dog. She pretty much takes care of them. Painters come to the house. They're noisy. She does not like that. So the painters take Gracie outside. Gracie leaves the yard and begins to run, and everyone in the neighborhood starts to chase her. We get to the point where she's being chased. The climax. Let's talk about the climax. The climax is the point in the story when you don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to catch Gracie? Are they going to let her go? And what eventually happens? The people get tired of chasing her, right? And they stop chasing Gracie. So here we go. What's going to happen? Well, she decides, I'm just going to walk home. She notices there's no one chasing her. And she begins to walk back home. Now, at this point, everybody's extremely exhausted. So what do? The people stop and rest. The painters go home and take a nap. And what's the resolution of the story? Gracie goes back to her house and makes sure everything is quiet. Is she happy? She is happy. So let's look at this plot diagram again. So she is a nice, quiet dog. The painters come to the house. They take Gracie outside. Gracie leaves the yard, begins to run. Everyone in the neighborhood starts to chase her. the people get tired and stop chasing her. And then we go, okay, what's Gracie going to do? This is the climax of the story. No one's chasing her. Is she going to continue to run? Is she going to go back home? What's happening? And what does she do? When she notices no one's chasing her, she begins to walk back home. The people stop and rest. The painters go home and take a nap. So Gracie gets to go back to her house. She makes sure everything is quiet, and she is happy. She caused a pretty big ruckus, didn't she? All because of her character trait. She is a very laid-back dog who likes a nice, quiet house. Hope you enjoyed the story. Thanks, boys and girls. Here's our plot diagram. And I could save it. All right, it's been nice having you here. I'll see you later. Bye.